Welcome to the next lesson. As we know, design systems have become an essential part of any digital product, and it actually became an industry standard. That's why people don't talk about it that much. So today I would like to talk about what are design systems, how have they emerged, what they consist of, and how both businesses and clients can benefit from them. And I would like also to consider some cases of what can happen if there is no design system in place. As we discussed before, everything in the world, in the processes, in the work, in our life can be structured, and everything that functions well is actually an effective system. Whether it's a symphony, beehive, your own body, the work process in IBM, or design decisions in the Apple. All those cases showcase the power of effective design systems. Alright, let's dive deep into the matter and discuss what design system is as we know it today. Breaking it down, a design system can be thought as the three core elements: style guide, components, and patterns. But if we zoom out a bit and consider a more comprehensive view on that, design system is a set of visual styles, reusable elements, and components implemented in a code and spread in design tools such as Figma or any other, along with rules and standards that guide how to use them to build user interface. In fact, at the end, design system is just a tool and a process that we as humans have created to make our work easier and faster. But let's rewind a bit. You say everything that sticks around in the world is actually appears as a response to some need or challenge. And to truly grasp the significance of design system, let's consider what were the origins and why they actually appeared. That was actually the digital rapid growth that put design systems to evolve. On the screen are the key milestones: pattern libraries, Bootstrap, Atomic Design, and Google Material Design. Design system likely began to evolve in 1960s with the first PCs, but we are going to skip that past as much design system don't look even close to that what we have now. And we will start from the pattern libraries. They made designers' work more consistent by offering reusable elements. This helped establish a consistent design foundation, and they looked quite simple. But in 2010, technology shifted, and in place of websites and web software, we became to use more of apps and mobile applications and some cross-platform UIs. Later on in 2011, Twitter Bootstrap appeared with their automated development, but it kind of limited the creativity, as it were mostly created for developers and software engineers. And we kind of needed something more balanced and something in between design and development. Then, in a while, there was Atomic Design Framework by Brad Frost. It was idea that break website into small patterns, so-called atoms, which combined into flexible components. But that understanding, that mindset helped us to start building all of the elements from the smallest to the biggest. And this is actually the framework that now is applied to most of the design systems. And we will see that later on. This wasn't just design elements, it was an ideology. It simplified decisions without shifting their creativity, so it became a better solution considering to the Twitter Bootstrap. Later on, 2014, Google Material Design blended patterns and atomic design. So they needed guidelines beyond repeatable elements. And they also introduced so-called design principles that bring the design system to a new evolution. Nowadays, design system became something more powerful and comprehensive, and we are going to look into that. Design system can take different forms, but what should be inside depends on your product, business, customer needs, platforms, marketing channels, and the organization by itself. So let's look at what design system can possibly consist of. The note here is that all of these parts are not necessarily for your specific case, and we will consider that, especially for freelancers or people who are just creating a website, for example. So let's start first with purpose, mission, vision, and values. It's like having a big view first before taking an action. Every product has a reason to exist, and we need to define it here. So we basically need to ask ourselves, the team and the business, maybe to create some sort of a brain map or brainstorm session and ask the questions. Why are we doing this? How are we going to do that? What is the end goal? Once we have this in place, we can break them down into the specific goals. So after we have these clear goals, they will help us to focus and align the whole team. We can also just have some values, and that is better for the smaller projects. And it's important to write them all down so that the whole team have them in place. Usually it's higher ups who do this, but if it's a startup, you can say the lead and help define them as a designer to show your professionalism and to take a more broader view and approach. So let's look at the example of the Uber design system. It's also called BASE. They have their mission, vision, and values. So their vision is weaving equity into the way the world moves. So it kind of takes it around about the taxi and stuff like that. Mission. They foster a culture of building equitable experiences by enabling teams to prioritize the perspective of historically and systematically excluded communities. And they also share some of the values, which is equity, humility, vulnerability, and well-being. And now let's look at the Atlassian design system. Their mission is to unleash the potential in every team. And that makes sense because their platform is created for people, mostly used by the product teams to collaborate and to create better products. And it actually helps to work together and to unleash that potential. They also have their values, and as we can see, their language is quite bold and humanized. Even we can see that from the language that they use. So we can read one of the values that customers are our lifeblood. Without happy customers, we are doomed. So considering the customer perspective, collectively, not just a handful, comes first. So here at the values level, we define how do we communicate, what our product is about, what we want to do, how we want to do it. And maybe it's not going to specifically impact the design decision, but it definitely will impact the marketing, how you are communicate, your tone of voice, and your overall view of the business itself and further steps. Next, let's consider design principles. These are like the golden rules for our designs. Example from the Google material you can see on the screen. They consider material as a metaphor, imagining design like in real world textures with lights and shadow. So material design borrows the design decisions from the reality. Now let's take a look at the design principles from the Uber design system. So they say that their principles aim to cultivate an equitable culture when it comes to people, processes, and products. They also highlight that, just like design, these principles are dynamic and will continuously evolve. Which means, as the design evolves, as you change everything, you can also change your principles. So here are the main three principles, and to actually understand them, you need to read about them more because sometimes they look quite vague without the context. So it's better to create principles that can be understood by everyone and should be straightforward and simple. But that depends on your design system goals and who is going to use that. The next one, style guide. But before we dive into that, let's consider first the brand identity. It's how people see us when they see our logo and our name. So let's look at Duolingo. On their identity branding page, they say some message and their main idea here. They provide information about their logotype, how it should be used, how it should be placed in different cases, because logotype is not only used on the website, it can also be used on some banners, in social media. So all of this should be clearly established in the logo documentation. They also have a lot of information how to use the icon. They have their color and typography set. They even have these principles that come to the writing, the tone of voice. This can be part of a big branding identity. They also answer why, what, and how, which is very nice. We can also actually find here, for example, how we can create illustrations. Duolingo is well known so much because of their illustrations. And here is an example how we explain what we can do to create specifically this kind of style of illustration. It's just don't use too much shapes because otherwise it becomes too detailed, and this is out of their branding style. Too much shapes is also not their style, and this is something in the middle which looks good. They also provide another examples how it can and cannot be used. We also provide some of the marketing suggestions regarding the colors, how the character can be used, and so on. So this kind of rules and such kind of guidelines is a part of a big brand identity, and sometimes it's like a too complex view, and you as a UI designer may not be able, may not even be needed to create something like that, because there should be another professional who can take this big job on himself and create such a big project. But you should consider that, and most of the elements from the branding can be part of the style guide, and let's look into that. Style guide is like the rule book for brand's graphic elements, where it consists of colors, typography, spacing, so it's how we dress up our brand. Let's look at the paradigm design system. I like it so much, especially the way they documented it, the way they created all of those images. It's bold, simple, minimalistic, spaced out, all of the shadows. It just looks nice. We have the typography, the guidelines, the information about the pairings, some of the do's and don'ts, so you can actually go and check the system out. They provide the iconography, guidelines. They also provide the structure and grid information. And the next one is the component library, our design logo set. This is a picture from the Dribble, but mostly components library consists of all of the building blocks that you need to create a final design and final UI. We can look at the Vercel example. So they provide the component name, the description, different types, and the code snippets. We can also interact with it. It actually provides us the hover state. Some design systems actually give you the form where you can play with a button, changing its sizes, types, and such. Here we just demonstrate how it can look, how it can react. On hover, we provide all of the shapes, all of the prefixes and suffixes. We provide different styles like rounded. They also show you how that can be used in the custom cases. And let's consider avatar. We also here provide you the sizes. They provide you the code snippets. They provide you compound components like the usage of several one in one place. It's a good practice to go to such design system and look at the example and consider what you can take from them, maybe from the visual perspective, maybe in the way it's built, especially if that makes sense for software engineers. Surely as a designer, you don't need to do that. And the next one is patterns. These are the rules that guide our interface behavior. They usually answer on the question, how do we do something? Like, how do we handle notification? How do we show the validation? How do we show loadings? How do we show an empty state, when it occurs, how it occurs? So basically, they keep consistent across our product. And they typically feature content structure, layout, and templates. So here on the screen, you can see an example of the empty state pattern. Another important part of the design system is the documentation. It's a way to keep everything mentioned above structured and saved somewhere with clear instructions and guidelines so that the whole team can use it properly. And we already saw how the component can be documented, how the style guide and the color can be documented. There is many ways you can provide some instructions. You may not, it depends on the needs and the scale of your design system. So here is a list of the design system that we can take a look at. You will get this slideshow so you can actually explore them or even just Google. They are open sourced. Another thing that I would like us to consider is those terms, style guide, UI kit, and design system, as they often used instead of one another. And also most of the people misunderstood these concepts. So the first one is the style guide. It defines the overall design language, including colors, typography, iconography, spacing, imagery, and other design elements. And style guide may also include guidance on the tone of voice, writing style, and other communication aspects, depending on the scope and the purpose of design system. As we see, Desig has its very broad and big, as it's like a whole branding system already. And branding is a bit bigger and more comprehensive than just a style guide. But for simple startup projects, style guide is quite enough. UI kit, on another hand, is a collection of pre-designed user interface components, such as buttons, form, icons, card, and other elements used in digital products. And design system include both of them. It's like a comprehensive set of all of this, including guidelines, principles, and things that we discussed in the part. In fact, design system goes beyond just UI kit and style guide, as we discussed above. It can include mission, vision, personality, values, design tokens. Design tokens are necessity for nowadays, and some other resources that help to facilitate the implementation of designs across all of the platforms. So actually look at the real example of how UI kit looks like. UI.net is a well-known platform that provides many UI kits. And as we can see now, they also provide some of the components, but they are not actually connected most of the time to the tokens, to the style guide, and it's very, very narrowed and specific cases. Most of such UI kits can be used as an inspiration, or we can just use some of the elements, change them, apply our style guide, and use just as a base. But most of the times I would just recommend to use it as an inspiration source, and to consider some of the way to lay out content, some color inspiration, and the flow inspiration. But basically, I wouldn't recommend you to use them for like a real big project. That quite depends, and it's quite hard to find a UI kit that actually may solve the specific design problems. And also, let's take a look at the design system kit. This is a best design kit from Sketch. They have here the simple style guide, typography, some of the components, and as you can see, they are out of the context. So you can actually use them the way you want, tweak, and apply some changes. They also provide here some simple wireframes. So everything here is a bit different from the UI kit, because at the UI kit, you can see it kind of all of the images. With images, it always looks so nice, especially with 3D, but in fact, in real project, this is not the way it's going to be created or built. So here it's more broad review, some wireframes, some charts, and I think it should be documented, and they often provide it in a coded way. Here they also have the tokens, the variables, they provide responsive templates. And now let's dive into atomic design, because mindset matters, as we mentioned before. So atomic design is like our design toolkit. It breaks down design stuff into smaller usable blocks. It's like atoms come together to form molecules, then those molecules team up to make even bigger things. This way of thinking keeps things consistent, helps us work faster, and makes our design grow without getting messy. So let's look, for example, at the YouTube. At the very low level, we can see that here we have the typography, we have icons, we have the colors, we have, for example, this is the title, this is the body text, here is some dot, here is a button. It can be considered as a molecule because it consists of the color, the icon, another icon, and the text. Here we also can have the tabs. They also can be considered as a molecule because they consist of the color and the underline. The whole thing can be also considered as a molecule, while it consists of the text, the title, the description or a subtitle, the body text, the icon. Here as we go, we can see that most of those elements are repeated, and that's why they are molecules. The takeaway here is that the mindset matter. First, we come with the vision, with mission, we understand how everything is built, then we take on the approach, we take action. And this whole thing will define our final results. So start from thinking big and then go to action and then get your results. So now let's talk about pros and cons and define, do we even need a design system? So a design system offers significant advantages that can greatly benefit your project even at the early stages. So first of all, they save the time and effort. Basically, they speed up our workflow and help us to cut some cost across design, development, and product teams by just eliminating the work that can be needed. Another thing, they also ensure consistency. They provide clear guidelines that just eliminate misunderstanding between our designers and our developers. And as a result, we get a harmonized design that's free from errors. Design systems serve as a single source of truth. Basically, when we update the style guide or some components, those changes ripple across all our platforms and products, maintaining the unified look and the feel. And they're not just making things look good with design system. They also help us achieve cross-platform consistency. Whether it's a website, app, or any other platform, our brand maintains a consistent presence. However, like anything worthwhile, there are challenges to navigate. First of all, it's high effort activity and it requires a lot of time. And another thing is that it takes a lot of time to teach our members of the team how to use and how to navigate the design system. That's why it's important to create clear guidelines, clear documentation. And actually, here I left 3 dots, and I would like to highlight this kind of challenges applies if you create something big and something comprehensive. In fact, we can create something simple and something that can work for many projects just as a base. Surely this will be not fully created design system, but at least it can serve us as a basement. So let's see, do you need a design system actually? Here is a set and the list of actual problems that can signal that your specific project can benefit from using design systems. Let's say you have too many shades of the same color, or your design elements look different across different pages or sections of the application, or maybe you spend a significant amount of time recreating similar components and creating similar styles for each new project or screen. Or maybe as a project grows, if you're working on an in-house position, maybe it becomes too challenging to maintain a coherent design and make updates consistently throughout the interface. Or maybe there is a lack of clear guidelines and documentation for design patterns and components. Maybe the design components and styles are not easily reusable across various parts of the interface, leading to redundant efforts and inconsistencies. Or maybe that it's a user that encounters usability problems or confusion due to inconsistent interactions or unclear design patterns. Maybe version controls become difficult as different team members work on a different part of the interface simultaneously. Maybe you face onboarding difficulties when there's new members come to your team. Or maybe there is an overall brand misalignment and design solution is actually not represent the branding itself. And maybe there is a high design depth. Basically, you create a lot of design, but none of this is implemented, which means project is not getting pushed to the real world. The main factors to consider when creating a design system is the scale and the size of your project, as well as the time and resources available. You don't need a full set system if you're just an early, small startup. A good style guide and tangible set of components can be a solid foundation for future scaling. If you understand the big picture of design system, you can just take some small steps, and this is how it's all done. Even Apple and Google started from somewhere, and then you can simplify your work by using these simple solutions and just stay efficient and professional. Well, system is not just a way to bring clarity on the processes and to create better products. It's also something what businesses actually need. So let's see how design system can benefit different business segments. So let's start with small businesses such as like cozy coffee shops or some small startups. Surely, design system can create consistent brand image across different platforms. The client can use it and create our works maybe on his own, or hire another designer, maybe a low or medium level like juniors on medium, to use it and to scale the project, which will eliminate the cost issue and will enable independent work afterwards. So if we have a design system in place, maybe there will be no need for extra updates for many years, as we will use the defined guidelines and defined branding, and we'll just create new pages without need to update. But that's not always the case, because the world is changing, everything is changing, and we need to go with the flow, if we, especially in business case, if it won't be on top. And surely design system can help to keep visual style the same even if the team is changing. So for example, if there is another designer came to the team and you left, he can just use what you have created but systemized as a base. So for medium-sized businesses, it goes beyond that, because it can ensure scalability, as medium sizes tend to grow fast and they need solutions in place. They allow ease of collaboration between different team members, even between designer to designer or between designer and developers. It definitely keeps visual style the same if a team is changing, as well as for small businesses, and it requires less time for art direction. So if there is a lead designer and he needs to teach newcomers, he just can send them to a design system guidelines and tell them to research that instead of spending his time on personal calls, for example. Or he can even use that as a base on the meetings to explain some foundation, as it's hard to always gain from scratch some knowledge. And we as humans, no matter if we're like even our director, we forget some stuff, and it's important to keep everything documented. So for enterprises, design system is a well-known industry standard. Basically, they cannot exist without system in place, otherwise it just will get to chaos. Nothing huge and big that stays cannot exist without system in place. So it ensures consistent branding across different platforms. It ensures efficiency and speed of work because everyone knows what to do and there is a clarity. It allows for flexibility and adaptability of the project itself, as we can build everything from the bottom to the top. And it ensures uniform custom experience across different products and platforms. So now let's shift our focus and define why designers themselves need the design system and how they can benefit from it. Remember, if business benefit, you benefit, and this is as straightforward as that. People come to you to solve their problems, and if you can help their businesses, they will come to you. Along many other pros that we mentioned above, there are two main scenarios that I would like to highlight. First of all, for freelancer, design system help to scale design solutions. So it basically highlights their professionalism and decrease clients' anxiety from unknown. As we have everything set and in place, we know what to do. We make sure that client also knows that we know what we do, so that way we are seen from the side as someone confident and as someone who knows what he does. This builds trust, and this decreases the anxiety and concerns from the client side. And for in-house designer, we should understand that as the design system became an industry standard, we working in the system, and our work should be also systemized. And simply unsystemized solutions maybe won't meet the standards and the expectations. So if we want to be hired, we need to work with the processes in place. Here is another thing that I would like us to consider. When clients approach us, they are not familiar with design decisions. It's crucial to communicate in their own language. So for example, as they see your confidence, they maybe will not ask for changes as much or iterations. They will trust your professionalism. They allow you to work without any constant interruption. Ultimately, clients hire professionals to save their time and money. In fact, they would love not to interrupt, and they would love so that they can spend their own time on their own things while you just solve their problems. Your role is to deliver results. Even if they try to delve into the process, maybe it came from their bad experiences in the past when they were not uncertain about the decisions. Your role is to ensure solutions align with their vision. Clear communication here is the key, involving strategic questioning. Much like a psychotherapist delves into patients' thoughts, designers can get insights, so many insights from the client, and actually your job is just to find the right questions as a psychotherapist. And after all, clients may not fully understand their needs, so that's why we need to communicate and ask them. And surely designers need to design systems as they can get some extra income. You can, for example, take on side projects using design system and efficient design processes. And even think about this. If you have a design system and clear way of working, it takes less time for you to create good solutions. This opens the door for doing creative jobs and freelance work. So you can also use design system to provide support, for example, or take on different projects that match what you are good at. And it's also about not starting from scratch each time. Your design system can also make your regular work better because you're more efficient and these things look consistent. You can spend more time on just working on the overall user experience and just on some creative stuff. Moreover, not every project needs a brand new idea. Many small businesses just want practical solutions that fit their needs. With a year of experience using a design system, you already have a lot of things ready to go. So this means you can get a big head start. Up to like 90% of the work can be done already with usage of design system, which helps you to make more money without not much that extra time. Also, when we have a design system in place, we have more clarity. We have less distractions, we have more energy to put into your work. This means we spend less time worrying and more time creating. It's like having a map of journey. You know where you are going and how to get there. And now let's consider what happens if there is no system in place. So the first case, You created a design that both you and client like, but there is no system. Basically, work is done, everyone is kind of happy. But with time, freedom from the project and design decisions tend to just fade away. So clients may return and ask for some changes. Maybe they just have realized that a certain aspect doesn't just feel right, or the color scheme isn't something that they like. So it's like revisiting an old outfit that doesn't fit anymore, and that happens quite often. Without a structured system, such changes can lead to a confusion, and the design at the end may just not look right and feel quite consistent. And guess what? The client will not like it either, as you will do. And no matter how many times you change it, how many iterations you do, because the absence of a system means decisions lack a solid foundation. So the client is not satisfied as a result, and he may not come back. That's the first case. Another case, you also created nice design, but again with no system. But client already had an experience with the first one. In this time, he's over-controlling. He asked for many iterations. So short project turns into a continuous work. Instead of moving forward, you're stuck in a loop of constant adjustments. And that's not all. As you keep making changes, the project just becomes less profitable because the client pays you money, you working on it, but the project is not published. So the business itself doesn't get a profit. So it's not a win-win situation. And without a plan, the client doesn't know what to do next. They are unsure about how to keep things consistent and how to work with their new designs, how we can create something else, how to create a new page, how to maybe work with marketing materials or some social media materials for their own business. And in the end, the project just loses its sparkle and both you and the client end up feeling stuck and unsure. In this case, client may also not come back to you. And case 3 is when you created a nice design again, everything kind of good, but no system, and this time client asks you questions about the design system, and that's actually a problem. You lose your authority and professionalism because clients start not to think of you as someone confident in skill. And in this case, we also lose the client and he may not come back to us anymore. So let's wrap it up. Having a design system decreases overall anxiety as there is clear steps in place. Client will come back and will bring you more clients because you showed your professionalism and you help the business itself. And there will be no more unprouded tweaks because if people see you're confident and professional, they would just love to give you work and just eliminate the burden from their shoulders to not interrupt in the work as they hire you to save their time and energy and focus. And another key thing is the communication. So even if the client asks you for iterations and tweaks, you should stay professional. And here's a script example. Let's say, Dear John, I understand your concerns and desire to improve what we already have. So you basically here shows that you are caring about his feelings and you're in his thoughts and you think of his ideas. But this change is not aligned with, and you can say it's not aligned with design system, with branding, with decisions that have been already made. And you can actually tell what exactly and what kind of problems this kind of decision can cause. So this way, you're not just saying, no, we are not going to do that. You are staying professional and you are explaining the reasoning. And now we can just propose something instead, like how we do something else. So basically, by systemizing the solutions, we can suffer less and create more. This is the final statement of this lesson. And in recap, today we discussed what is a design system, how and why it emerged. We saw the main parts of the design system, discussed what's the difference between design system style guide and UI kit, saw some pros and cons, basically challenges, and saw some obvious signals that you need a design system. We also discussed why both clients and designers need design system and how they can benefit from them, and just considered some actual cases, what can happen if there is no design system in place, even if that a small project or some work in a big enterprise.